This video is a quick recap of perimeter, area, volume, and surface area. As you're watching the video, you should be filling in the handout. The video will remain linked in our outline. So if you need to rewatch, go back over, or you missed something, you have that opportunity to do so. So let's start off by reviewing perimeter and area. So perimeter is the distance around the outside of an object, and area is the number of square units needed to cover an object. So let's go through some examples. So the perimeter of a circle is also called the circumference, and the circumference of a circle is 2 times pi times r. So I can put in the values that I have there. 2 pi times 2.1, which gives me a perimeter of 2 times pi times 2.1, which gives me a perimeter of about 13.2 inches. Remember, you should be using the pi button on your calculator, not just 3.14. The formula for the area of a circle is pi times r squared. So I can calculate that using the same dimension I had there. So now I've got pi times 2.1 squared, making sure that you've got the decimal in there, which gives me a total of 13.9 inches squared for the area. The next shape that I'm going to look at is a triangle. So here I've got the perimeter of a triangle. Those little tick lines tell me that those two sides of the triangle are equal. So to find the perimeter, I can just add all three sides together. So 9.5 plus 9.5 plus 16.8 gives me a perimeter of 35.8 meters. Now for the area, I need the formula base times height divided by 2. In this case, I don't know the height, so I'm going to have to use the Pythagorean Theorem. Something I do know is that this line is going to divide my triangle exactly in two. So it splits the bottom into two sides of 8.4 and 8.4. So that means that the triangle that I'm looking at, to find the h, is 8.4 meters on the bottom and 9.4 meters on the hypotenuse. So in order to use the Pythagorean theorem, this came up in our gizmo the other day, I'm going to take my hypotenuse squared, subtract my other side length squared, and that gives me my height squared. So I've got 9.5 squared, take away 8.4 squared, which gives me 19.69 as my hypotenuse squared. And then I'm going to take the square root of both sides to let me solve for the h, which gives me about 4.44 meters. Now that I know that value, I am going to input that into my formula. So I've got the base of my triangle times the height, which I just solved for using the Pythagorean theorem, and then I'm going to divide by 2. So 16.8 times 4.44, and then divided by 2 gives me an area of approximately 37.3 meters squared. The last shape that we're going to do is a rectangle. So for perimeter, I'm going to add up all those sides together. So I've got 2 feet 7 inches plus 2 feet 7 inches plus 4 feet 5 inches plus 4 feet 5 inches adding all those feet together gives me 2, 4, 8, and then, so I have 12 feet. And then I'm going to add the inches together. So 7, 14, and then 10 gives me 24 inches. Now there are 12 inches in a foot. So these 24 inches actually give me another 2 feet. So my total perimeter is going to be 14 feet. Okay. In order to find my area, I'm going to do length times width. Before I can use these and just multiply them together, I need to change them into a decimal so I can multiply them. So I have 4 feet, and then my decimal part is 5/12 of an inch. Same thing for the other one. I've got 2 feet and then 7/12, not of an inch, excuse me, of a foot. So my decimal here, when I do 5 divided by 12, this is about 4.42 feet. And this one up here is about 2.58 feet. So these are the two numbers that we're going to use to calculate our area, looking at the length and the width. So I've got 4.42 times 2.58. Which gives me 11.4 feet squared. So our final example that we're going to look at in this video is figuring out the area of the mini golf hole. So this is kind of like the examples that we did a few Fridays ago, where we looked at the composite area. So we've got a whole bunch of pieces that we're going to need to figure out. So let's work our way from left to right. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces that I'm going to look at. And now that hole is pretty small, so I'm just going to ignore that when I calculate the area. So my first shape here, I'm actually going to split into 1A and 1B just to make things a little bit more interesting. But I can see that 1A, that is just a rectangle. So I'm going to multiply length times width. I'm going to take 2.3 times 1.2. Which gives me 2.76 meters squared. For 1B, I have a triangle. So that is base times height divided by 2. My base for the triangle, let's use a different color here, is going to be 2.3. And my height, which is this distance right here, is going to be 2.1, the total height of that shape, take away 1.2. So my height is 0.9. So I'm going to put those in to find the base and the height. So I've got 2.3 times 0.9 divided by 2. Which gives me about 1.04 meters squared for the area of 1B. Now I'm going to look at shape 2. I can see that I have a trapezoid. Okay. And the area of a trapezoid is kind of an interesting one. I'll give you that formula here. So our area of a trapezoid is A plus B divided by 2, and then times the h, okay, our height. Now our problem is that this is our height right here, and I don't know what that value is. What I do know is that if I draw it here on the other side, I also have another h. Since these two sides are the same, What that means is that that actually splits those outside parts into equal halves. So left over, I've got 4.6 minus 1.8, which leaves me 2.8. Dividing that in 2 means that these two parts are actually 1.4. So now I'm going to draw my triangle again out here like I did before. I've got a right angled triangle. Maybe you can see what's coming. This side is 2.5. This side here, I don't know. That's the height that I'm looking for. And then this side here I figured out is 1.4. So again, I can use the Pythagorean Theorem. That height squared is going to be my hypotenuse squared. Take away 1.4 squared. And then I get 2.5 squared. Take away 1.4 squared. Gives me 4.29. And then I can take the square root of that answer to isolate my variable, which gives me about 2.07 meters. So now I can use that formula to find the area of my second shape. My A is just the length of the bottom. B is the length of the top, divided by 2. And then I'm multiplying by 2.07, that height that I found. So 4.6 plus 1.8 divided by 2, and then multiplied by 2.07 gives me an area of 6.62 meters squared. Now I'm on to shape number 3. You can breathe a sigh of relief. This is a rectangle. Good old length times width. My length is 4.6. My width is 2.5. Which gives me 11.5 meters squared. My last shape is a semicircle, and I know that my diameter is 2.5, but I am looking for my radius, and I only have half a circle. So I'm going to find the area, and then I'm going to divide by 2. So I've got pi times my radius, which is half of 2.5 squared, divided by 2, which gives me a total area of about 2.45 meters squared. Now I'm looking for my total. I'm just going to change colors so we can fit everything on here. So my total area, I'm just going to add all those values together. So 2.76, 1.04, 6.62, 11.5, and 2.45, which is going to give me a total area of 24.37. We'll round to 3 significant figures, so we'll say 24.4 meters squared would be the total area of our golf hole. And we just did that, breaking it up into shapes that we knew how to calculate.